Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Love Fruit podcast. And today we're introducing you and sharing with you another story of someone that is um, on a raw vegan diet and on a raw food journey. And that's Eva from Eva Loves Raw. And Eva is someone that I've met a number of times, initially at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, when I think firstly I actually met her husband playing football at, at the festival, and then eventually I met Eva and spent time with, very kindly, we spent time with them in Florida where they lived at the time as well. But Eva has written some books, on some recipe books about the raw lifestyle. She coaches people and helps people transition and also recover um, from ill health using the raw lifestyle. And she's someone that's got a lot of education, a lot of training, a lot of experience in this field. So I'm really looking forward to hear what she has to share with us today. So Eva, is there anything else you would like to tell the audience about yourself, just in introduction?
That pretty well covered it. I have been 100% raw since 2016. Prior to that, I was high raw for a couple of years, but I felt that didn't work out for me so well. I have been on this 100% raw journey for a little while now, and it's been quite the ride. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I've been coaching people, helping people transition onto the raw vegan lifestyle as well. And yeah, you've covered it pretty well.
Yeah, and we should just say you can follow Eva at Eva Loves Raw on Instagram. That's EVA Loves Raw on Instagram. Okay, well, let's take it back to the start. Were you brought up on a kind of conventional diet, or were you a vegetarian from a young age or anything like that?
No, I grew up very much in a conventional way. I grew up in Spain. I'm from Spain originally. The Spanish diet is very meat centric. So I grew up eating a lot of meat, a lot of dairy, and not surprisingly, by the time I became an adult, I had some issues, especially starting in my early 40s. I started having major issues. So I grew up like everyone else, eating the meat, eating the dairy, eating the processed foods.
So your kind of journey towards a healthier lifestyle came from some health issues. Is that the way it kind of went for you?
Yeah, a little bit. I was always very interested in different ways. I had a couple of vegetarian friends, and that really intrigued me. Having grown up in a meat-centric diet, I didn't think that you could actually live without meat. So
Yeah.
it really intrigued me, the fact that these girls were thriving and doing so well, and they were in great shape. So I got started into vegetarianism probably about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, more or less. I went on and off of it. And I started reading books, and it's a very natural progress. You start vegetarian, then you go vegan, then you go more plant-based centric, and then you eventually end up raw. I mean, that was the natural progression for me.
Yeah. And was there anything in particular you were dealing with at the time that you recovered from with changing to a raw lifestyle?
Yeah, I was in my early 40s. I started having a lot of hormonal issues, as well as it was just like no doctor could pinpoint what was wrong, but I did go to several doctors, several alternative doctors as well, with many hormonal issues. I would have female issues like you won't believe. I had periods that would last for 3 weeks, very heavy. I felt very depleted. I had lots of cramps. I had massive brain fog, fatigue. I had 2 young children at the time, and every afternoon I remember just being completely wiped out on the sofa at 4 p.m. I started drinking wine, thinking that I just needed to chillax a little bit. It was like a ball, it was just like a horrible effect after effect. So that's what prompted me to start really looking into what I thought was a very healthy diet at the time. By the time I went raw, I had been pretty much plant-based for a while, but I was eating a lot of grains. I was eating a lot of bread products still, a lot of gluten. And I just didn't seem to be getting better. And I was getting frustrated because I thought, here I am already plant-based, vegan, and I'm still struggling with this. What's going on?
So you'd already changed to a plant-based vegan diet, and you still didn't feel like it was kind of did the job for you.
Yeah, I had been vegetarian for about 10 years, but then again, when I went vegetarian, I started eating a lot of dairy, a lot of cheese. Then, so it was a cumulative effect. By the time I went vegan per se, I went vegan thinking, oh, you just eat vegan products, you know, the vegan cheeses and the vegan pizzas and Oreos are vegan, you know, so I was just that kind of mindset vegan, which obviously didn't do me any favors. Then I realized, hang on, I gotta eat salads and fruit. And so I
Sure.
started incorporating a little bit of that, but it just wasn't enough. It just didn't feel like I was getting any better. So yeah.
And when did you kind of start to get more interested in going raw? And was there anyone in particular that you were learning from, or did you have a teacher or someone that you met that encouraged you?
I actually, I lived in Florida at the time, and I had heard of the Hippocrates Health Institute, and that really, really intrigued me because here there was a place where they actually supposedly heal people with a raw vegan diet, and I just thought that was bananas. So I went up there for a couple of lunches, and I was very taken aback by what was going on there. I saw sick people there. It was pretty much a hospital, a
Mm.
clinic in a way, even though they don't call it that. They call it a learning institute because they teach you how to take care of your own health. But I went there and I was very intrigued. So I decided to enroll in their health educator program. And I did that for 9 weeks. I was at Hippocrates and I learned, you know, from those guys what they had to say about the whole lifestyle. Having said that, even though I learned a lot from them, I didn't fully, what's the best way to put it? I didn't fully embrace their whole philosophy because theirs is one of no fruit and a lot of sprouts, which I believe in. Sprouts are wonderful, but I just felt like something was lacking in their approach. So I learned a lot from them, and that's what prompted me onto the journey. But that it didn't end there. I just kept going after that.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point to talk a little bit more about. And it's the first time I went to Hippocrates was when I was staying with you, and it is an amazing place, as you're saying. Like, it's an incredible facility, and obviously they're doing a lot of good work. It is curious though that they don't let people eat fruit there and things like that. So, what kind of how did you end up kind of changing towards eating more fruit and eating some of the things that maybe Hippocrates didn't maybe recommend for you?
Well, their lifestyle, in my opinion, is not sustainable because it takes a tremendous amount of energy and time to grow the sprouts.
Right.
And so I went home and it was completely overwhelming to me to have, I had racks of sprouts in my kitchen. They took over one of my, I had a room off the side of the kitchen. It was full of racks. I mean, it was just like I needed to install an air conditioner in there. I started going bananas with this. It was crazy. And I'm like, I don't see how people can do this. And then the juices that they recommend, which is, while you're there, is a wonderful bubble to be in because they provide everything for you. And yeah, yeah, it's doable. But when you leave, then you're like, okay, how am I gonna eat these, grow these sprouts at this rate? So it was just very, very overwhelming. And also, I don't believe in, I believe in a more balanced approach. I think their way is great. Fruitarianism is great. And how about blending the two? I mean, they have a lot of great things to offer. The fruitarians have a lot of great things to offer. I just don't see why pick one or the other. I think if a balanced sort of approach in the middle is what's actually worked best for me, because I tried their way, then I tried the heavy fruit-based way, and I find for myself at my age where I'm at with my needs, a more middle of the road approach works really well for me.
Sure, sure. So, you obviously you've been to the Woodstock Fruit Festival a number of times.
Yeah.
Before you did that, were you following some other people when you were kind of finding your own way with the diet?
Yeah, I scoured the internet. I looked up every single person there was online. Obviously, you know, the Fully Raw Christina was one that always came up in those years, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but when I first started looking into it, Fully Raw Christina, Dan, the Live Regenerator, and then I found Dr. Fred Vichy, who's like, he's right now he's 91-year-old raw vegan. He's been raw for 60 years. I found him and I started consulting with him. He's also very middle of the road approach. He's actually a very balanced way of looking at things. So I consulted with him and he's been my sort of mentor ever since then. I've learned a lot from him. Who else? Matt Monarch was very, very helpful to me at the time. I also talked with him sometimes online on his Hangouts and
Mm-hmm.
asked questions. So as much as I could learn from other people that had been doing it for a long time, that's what I tried to do.
Awesome, awesome. And was it kind of an easy decision for you to go to like the Woodstock Fruit Festival when you first went?
Yes, when I first went, it was like salvation because at that point I had only been raw for about 8 months, and the beginning is hard because you're swimming
Mm.
upstream pretty much. And I'm a mom, I have kids, I have a husband, I cook for them every day. And it was, to me, it was like a safe space where it was just all done, all figured out. I didn't have to think of my food. I was in
Mm.
a like-minded community. It was like walking into the gates of heaven for me. It was just wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk to you a bit about the situation, you know, because um, you, as you're saying, you're on a raw food diet, but your daughters, your husband are not, and I think they're sometimes eat vegan or whatever else. But and I'm sure they eat raw with you at times as well. But some people find that a challenge. So how do you deal with being in a household and a family where everyone's kind of eating when you're eating raw and they're eating something different? Is that challenging?
It's all a mindset. If you think it's challenging, then it's going to be challenging. My approach has been, this is what I'm doing. This is what's quote unquote saved me.
Mhm.
This is my passion here. This is where I'm getting, this is where I'm vibing so high from. So if you look at it as, oh my God, I have to prepare 2 dinners. Yeah, then it's going to be challenging, but just get on with it. You know, what I do is I make my dinner first and I set it aside, and then I make their dinner. And I also make them a huge salad every night. So they always have salad for dinner with whatever I made for them, which could be soup or whatever vegan. I only cook vegan at home.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just depends on the mindset you have going in. Of course, it's going to be a little extra work, but things that are worth it are a little extra work. Not to say that some days I haven't felt very frustrated and felt like I really wanted to eat their food. I have felt those days. And I think that this lifestyle, in a way, when you're in a family, when you're in society, when you are with other people that aren't raw, is a little bit of like you're a monk, you know, you're a food monk. You have to take your vows very seriously, and you have to just keep going your path and not let the distractions derail you, because it happens. You know, if you try a lick of their food, you're immediately brought back to that addiction that was the reason why I left. So you have to be careful. You have to be very centered and continue going online to get more inspiration from other people, and just keep going one foot in front of the other. I never tell myself this is forever. I always tell myself it's just one day after the other, one foot in front of the other. Don't project too far into the future, because that can get really overwhelming.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, I do feel like an outcast sometimes in my family. You know, like we go out for tacos, and guess who's not having a taco? I'm not having a taco. We go out for vegan ice cream. I'm not having vegan ice cream. So in a way, it changes the family dynamics quite a lot. I'm the odd one out, and I have to let them get used to that, which they already, I think, pretty much have. Even though sometimes they mourn that, you know, they mourn the old me, mom, look what I made, and I'm not having it. Or it's just, it changes the family dynamics. But you have to be, you have to stick to your guns if
Mm.
it's important enough to you.
How did the conversation first go when you said to them, that you were going to change your diet, you were going to go raw? Did they accept that straight away, or was it a bit was it difficult for them at first?
Well, my girls were really little. I didn't really have a conversation with them. I just told them, oh, I'm eating this now. Guys, I'm just
Right.
eating that. No, I'm not going to eat that for now. Like I didn't really explain that to them too much. With my husband, it was different because he had a harder time. It's all about food in our society. So you go out to eat together, and guess what? We're not going to Indian anymore. We're not going to Italian anymore, because unless they have a salad, and then it's not a lot of fun. You're not sharing the food, which is like, try this, try that.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for him. It was hard for him because he felt like one less thing that we do together.
Right.
It's already challenging enough to be in a couple, we've been married 20 years in a couple of days, trying to make things work. And now we all of a sudden don't share a meal together, which is like number one way of sharing with other people is through food. And he's not into raw food. He's gone to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, but he'll do it for me, but he prefers his cooked food. He is who he is. I'm not here to change him. So I actually, at the beginning, I didn't say anything. I just quietly, I set a date and I just started eating raw. And I remember the first few days he didn't notice. And then he was like, oh, aren't you having lentil soup? I'm like, no, I'm having this instead. Why? And then I told him, oh, I'm going to try this raw thing for a while. I had already gone to Hippocrates, so he knew I was into.
Yeah.
He was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah. And so I started eating. Prior to that, I had been eating high raw, but I had not jumped to 100%, which is quite a different world altogether. So yeah, it was very carefully and very slowly.
So let me ask you, but what do you see as the difference? Because a lot of people, they get a lot of benefits from eating a high raw diet, and they're not sure why. Maybe they don't feel like going 100% raw, but why for you is there a difference, and what were the benefits you saw that made you want to stick to it?
Well, I think people can be very, very healthy on a high raw diet. I honestly don't. If you are looking for perfect health, I think you can get there on a high raw diet, but high raw meaning 70% raw, and then the rest, no processed anything, no gluten, very, very, very clean diet. And I think you'll do very, very well in a lot of the cases. And most of my clients I coach to work this, because 100% raw for most people is just not in their realm. It's a lot to be consistently 100, because I also think that switching in and out of the lifestyle is very detrimental to our bodies as we adapt to 100% raw, and then now I'm eating cooked, now I'm going, and I think that jumping back and forth is just not really ideal for our bodies. So the main difference for me between high raw and 100% raw is mostly a spiritual thing. I think from high raw to 100%, the difference is how your internal terrain feels. It feels, high raw feels like you're part of this world. 100% raw feels like you're not part of this world in so many ways. You're out with the fairies. You're very out there. You're very out there, mostly spiritually, emotionally. A lot of takes place, and it's not just physical. A lot of emotional healing takes place. It's like you open Pandora's box, things start coming up. You start peeling the onion, the layers start coming off until you're left with, and I don't mean to say this is the only way to heal or spiritually get connected. As they say, the sun has many rays, but this is one way that's working for me. It works for other people too. Not to say that this is the only way. I'm just saying this has been my way.
Let me ask you about your transition to a raw diet, and was it something you found quite simple, or were you just ready for it, or did you kind of go back and forth with it a lot, and did you feel like the cooked food was quite addictive? Did you struggle with giving it up?
Yeah, and that's the reason why high raw didn't work for me. It was a slippery slope. Cooked food is very, very addictive to me in particular. I was seriously addicted to refined starches, processed carbs, refined sugar, anything with gluten had my name on it. It was just like, I couldn't just have one cookie. If there were 5 cookies, I ate the 5 cookies,
Sure.
or the bread, or the pasta, or the white rice. It was just it was just such an addiction to me. I pretty much feel like if I were an alcoholic, that's sort of the same scenario. I was just very, very addicted. So in a way, I'm like a recovering food addict, like an alcoholic. So, sorry, what was the question again?
Well, it's just, I just want to know, did you find that transition challenging? And
Oh,
did you fall
yes.
back and forth a number of times?
Yeah, so that's what high raw didn't work for me, because it was a slippery slope. And so when I went 100% raw, I made the decision that that was it. I was gonna, on the date, going 100% raw. After trying high raw for a while, I'm going to go 100% raw, and that was actually easier than being high raw for me, because the power struggle was over. If it's raw, I eat it. If it isn't, I don't. And it wasn't a matter of, oh, it's vegan pizza, I already had my salad, I'm just gonna. It was just so simple and easy to follow. If it's raw, eat it. If it isn't raw, don't eat it. And so that cut a lot of the turmoil out of it. The transition was as smooth as can be expected, because I had already been high raw, so I had been training towards it. And then when I decided to go for it, I just, yeah, I slipped up a few times. I would try food, with the excuse in my mind of, oh, because I'm cooking for my family. Oh, let me try, see if I made it right, or let me see how this tastes. And so I did that many times, but I soon realized that you cannot taste it, you cannot be near it. It just, don't go don't go there, because it'll keep you with one foot on that dock. You won't be able to sail away until you completely go. And that's really.
And was there a moment where you just made that realization, where you made that decision, right, I'm giving that up for good and that's it?
Yeah, there was a moment where I realized that, listen, if I keep trying their food, I can't say that.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work out. So yeah, I did that. And that's been really, really challenging, because so many times I've wanted to try their food, especially when we were traveling. We lived in an RV for 10 months, and we were in very cold climates. And I wanted a bowl of soup so bad, because I thought, how people live in the cold, because I came from Miami. It was almost easy there. But here I am in Colorado, I'm like, so I just drank tea, and I knew that, and to some people that might seem extreme, like if you want a cup of tea so bad, I mean a bowl of soup so bad, just have the damn bowl of soup. But to me, it was about transcending something. It wasn't really about the warmth, it wasn't about the food, it was more about an interior warmth that I was seeking. It was just, I knew I had just to get over that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like a lot of people, the transition took a little bit of time. I'm guessing from what you're saying. Did you feel like there was any particular mistakes you made that you remember back then that you would encourage other people to avoid?
I made mistakes, but those mistakes almost always lead to positive results. Meaning I terribly food combined at the beginning, because I thought, if it's raw, I'll eat it. Well, here I am eating these combo bombos, that were like so upset into my God. And I was like, and this is where people go wrong. They think, oh, the raw diet isn't working for me because I'm so bloated and so gassy. Yeah, because look what you're eating. It's just, but then people think, but I used to be able to eat that when I ate cooked food. Yeah, but you're not. Your body's cleaning out, and now your body is like, it's demanding better fuel and better fuel and better fuel. You started off on regular unleaded, and now you're on solar energy. You can't compare the two, and your body gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, and you have got to understand that those food combinations are atrocious. And so I did that a lot, and I was bloated a lot of the time. The first year, I was walking bomb. I mean, it was like awful. And that tears a lot of people because they think this isn't working.
Sure.
It is working. It's just that I'm eating almond butter and bananas. Guess what? Not good. You know.
I love that phrase, combo a bombo. That's something that like only raw foodists know about, but I love that phrase. So you kind of transitioned in Miami. I guess or near Miami, there's a bunch of good raw food places there. Was that something you enjoyed? Do you encourage people to go to like try some of the raw food restaurants and things like that?
For me, in my particular case, it was very, very, very helpful. Very helpful because I was just needing that comfort food. I'm very emotionally attached to food. And that to me was a saving grace, being able to go to a raw vegan restaurant. And yeah, the combinations are bad there, but I was able to like sink my teeth into something like a burger or something like that. And that to me was actually very, very helpful. To some other people, maybe not. In my particular case, being able to have like something very fatty and very rich, it just did the trick sometimes, especially on days when I was just like, oh, I gotta get out of my house. I gotta eat something. And it was so good to be able to go to a place. And there are so many good places in me, as you know. Yeah, so I had quite a few treats, which, you know, they're not the best things for your health either, because you're eating, you know, I don't know how many grams of fat and sugar and all of that. But, you know, yeah, to me, it was very helpful.
So you wouldn't necessarily recommend that every day for someone, but maybe now and again is something okay?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it every day at all. That's just not ideal.
Sure.
But I recommend people learn some good gourmet dishes to do at home. The other day I made something. I had a Mexican dinner and definitely was very high on the fat scale. But once in a while, yeah, or go to a restaurant. Sure, I go to a restaurant now. I'm in San Diego. I go to a restaurant here once in a while. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
When I go there, that's my meal of the day because I'm so full from that afterwards that is it. But
Sure.
I think it's fine once in a while. I do not recommend that every day. No.
Something I want to ask you about is I've seen that when people are transitioning towards this diet and they maybe go for a few days raw or a few weeks raw or even a month raw, and then they end up going for, you know, tasting just a little bit of cooked food, and then they go all the way back to eating lots of cooked food and stuff. And it can be very disappointing for people. It can be tough, kind of emotionally, you know, as well, and disappointment, and they feel like they're not in control and all these kind of things. Did you ever experience those things, and how did you deal with that? Like, what was your mindset when you went through these like slip-ups?
Yeah, you feel really bad about yourself, but I think that one of the big things you have to learn, and this journey will teach it to you, is self-love. Love, 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 love yourself. You are human and you are swimming up current. You are surrounded by, in a society that's not built for raw foodism. You live in a world where food is all around you and is cooked food. So if we all lived in Maui in a raw vegan community, listen, with no stoves, how easy would that be? But we don't. We are in, you know, in San Diego. We have families, we have friends. So yeah, how I dealt with it was I never really was one to, once I went 100% raw, I never sat down for a cooked meal, never. But I did cheat, of course. Oh, let me try that. Let me try the other. So how I dealt with it was, just get up, dust yourself off, and keep going. You know, I tried to learn what happened. Why did I try that food? And 99% of the times, it was because I was hungry.
Sure.
So I realized, hey.
I was going to ask, did you completely believe in your own mind that you were going to get there, and that did that get like I think that sometimes people can get this doubt that they feel like they're never going to do it, they're never going to work it out. Did you feel confident that you were gonna eventually get there?
Yeah, I did. Because I knew, to me, this is the faith has to be there. You have to have
Yeah,
100% faith in what this is all about. Do you believe this is our species specific diet? If you are just trying this because it's a fad, you saw fully raw Christina online, she looks amazing, let me do it too, it's not going to work out. You got to be
right.
educated, you have to have faith, you have to believe in it 100%.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about coaching a little bit, if you don't mind. I'd like to ask you about that. And you've been doing coaching and not just health but other types for quite a while. And I'd like to ask you, firstly, why does it help people? Why is coaching a good thing for people to do, and why does it help?
I think it's good because, sometimes we need a little support, we need a little help. And
Mm.
if someone's out there doing something that you yourself want to do and they could give you some pointers, then I'm all for it. I myself have been coached many, many times. I've attended so many workshops. I've gone to so many coaching different things and events and communities. I love coaching. This is how you grow from someone that you look up to, or that you like. A lot of my clients are moms themselves, and they relate to me because, oh, here's a mom, she's doing it, let me see what I can learn from her, let me see
Sure,
how she did it, let me learn from her. So if someone's already invented the wheel, why reinvent it? Just see what they're doing, learn from
sure.
them, see if they can guide you. It's just brilliant. I've learned so much from being coached.
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
it.
And what's the keys for you as a coach to be good at that and to really help people? What's important for you in your process of helping people? What you think are the most important things?
I think obviously listening, instead of trying to say what you want to say and not hear what the other people is saying, is very, very important. Hear what their struggles really are.
Hmm.
I think being empathetic, as a coach, I never come down hard on people like some other coaches do. Oh, be stronger, or it's all about self-control. It's not. It's just very, very, it's a very delicate sort of intricate balance, trying to, raw living is like unlike any other, and the coaching for this field is unlike any other. It's not about techniques, it's really basically one foot in front of the other. So how I coach people is gently. Obviously I encourage them, but I let them make their own mistakes too, and then we can talk about it. I always have people keep a food journal, and then I have them keep a journal of their emotions and how they feel, what's going on emotionally, what's going on in around. It's not just the food, is you have to look at the big picture, at everything. So
Do you think the emotions are more challenging for some people than the food itself?
I think so, because we're emotional eaters, especially women. We are big time emotional eaters. And I think you have to look at everything. Yeah. If people are telling me, oh, I was doing great, and then dinner time came and oh my God, I ate my kid's food. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, you're most hungry. You're exhausted if you're a mom. You've had a long ass day. And then the food's already cooked and ready in front of you. And it's just there are techniques to get past that, but of course it is challenging. If you're exhausted and you've had a tough day and you're stressed out, and so yeah, food's going to play a huge role in that, big time.
So, what does a typical day for you look like at the moment on a raw food diet?
So I'm still my journey keeps evolving, and
Hmm.
I I try to eat locally, obviously, and seasonally as much as possible. Right now I'm intermittent fasting quite consistently. I have been doing so for a number of months. I'm loving the results. I'm loving the changes that I'm seeing. So I don't eat anything until around 1:30 in the afternoon. In the morning, I just have green juice. I love my juices. I think they're a great tool. A lot of people don't believe in juicing. I personally believe in juicing. I think our food is so depleted and so devoid of nutrients. The minerals in the soil are there. And I think juicing is like a little extra power tool that you can use, you know, to get some nutrition in you. And so I love juicing. I have juices every day. I juice every single day. I love it. Not a lot of fruit. I usually do greens, cukes, water rich, mineral rich kind of juices. So I have that, and then around 1:30, I have some fruit, usually with greens. I love sprouts, sunflower sprouts. So I'll have, like the other day, I had jackfruit and sunflower sprouts, or I might, now that melons are coming into season, I might have a watermelon or melons. Sometimes I have smoothies for lunch. And then dinner is basically one big ginormous salad with good dressing. Lately, I've been doing a couple of little gourmet-ish dishes. I made some falafels the other day. I made some tabbouleh. I made cookies for my girls, raw vegan. So I try to try a new recipe every couple of weeks. But my basics are always the big salads with the cucumber noodles or zucchini noodles. Basically like Woodstock, you know, one big bowl of that's the easiest because I have to make 2 dinners. And honestly, by the time I'm done, I'm just not into a big lengthy dinner. I use my dehydrator for crackers, but most of the time is a juice, a smoothie or fruit, and a salad.
Excellent, excellent. So let's start. A lot of people who are listening are probably quite new to the lifestyle. What kind of tips do you have for beginners?
Beginner tips. Number 1, educate yourself. Read. Listen to people who have been doing it for a while. The longer, the better, obviously, even though that's no guarantee, but at least they walked in those shoes. Education. I also would say don't follow dogma too much. See what works for you. In my case, you know, too much fruit or too little fruit didn't work. I had to find my right balance for me, for my body type, for how many calories I burn. Like I was having these, you know, 1,000-calorie smoothies that didn't do so well for me. I'm 104 pounds. I'm 5'3". So I was just eating how other people were eating, not how it worked for me. And so I don't need to have 10 mangoes at any given time. I'm okay with 2 mangoes. That's all I need. I think eating too much is a problem. I think really we should be going. I was talking about intermittent fasting. My eating window now is about 5-6 hours. And I think before I was eating too much. And I think that's okay at the beginning because you're wanting to feel full. You're wanting that satiated feeling. But honestly, the biggest tip for me was educating yourself. Don't follow dogma. Do your, you know, trial and error on yourself. Be gentle and kind to yourself. Dust yourself off. Keep going, and just have faith in the lifestyle. Have faith.
Yeah. And I guess it all comes together. Like the faith comes from the education, and they kind of fuel each other, and then the experience, having your own experiences, of course, important. So let's talk about some of the different places that you've lived. Obviously Florida, now you're in San Diego, but you were traveling in an RV for quite a while as well. And how did let's talk about that. How did you make it work traveling in the RV? Did you find that easy?
It was challenging. Like I mentioned, the cold weather really threw me out for a spin. I was just like, whoa, this is not good to live in the cold. I hated it. Now I live in San Diego, which is very nice. But it was, listen, if when there's a will, there's a way. Going into the RV, we sold our house, we sold our possessions, we sold our cars, we sold everything. We bought an RV and we said, we're going to travel for a year. We're going to take the RV and we're going to go all over the United States, and we're going to find a new place to live, because South Florida was getting too crazy and we wanted to leave. So I knew going on to that trip that I was my lifestyle came with me. I wasn't going to stop being 100% raw, because if I could eat raw at home, why couldn't I eat raw in an RV? So I basically, the fridge in the RV was tiny. It was like a tiny little box. So I bought like a huge cooler, one of those fancy coolers. And every time I came into a town, I stocked up as well as I could. I brought my juicer. I brought my dehydrator. Believe it or not, I had it underneath in a compartment. I brought my food processor. I just brought all my gadgets and I put them under the sofa. There was a compartment. And my husband was like, what the hell? I'm like, trying to hide all the things I was bringing. At the end of the day, you only really need a knife and a cutting board and a bowl. That's all you really, truly need. But I brought all my toys with me just in case. And when I came into a town, I Googled, the like organic places to go to, the supermarkets and things like that, where I could get, or the farmers markets, and I would stock up. And the only caveat was I had to shop very often. I had every 3-4 days I had to go, because I didn't have enough space to store. But I continued juicing for myself and my family. I continued with the smoothies for myself and my family, the big dinners every night. And then on Happy Cow, that app, every time we went into a town, let me see if there's any raw food around here. And sometimes I found some, sometimes I didn't, but yeah, it was doable. It was more than doable. I mean, by that time I had already been raw for 3 years. So it was just, I'm doing this. Yeah.
So really it's about a mindset, and even when you were in cold places and places you couldn't maybe get as much fruit and other things, you had the mindset and you'd made the decision that you were staying 100% raw, and you just made it work. Is that basically what happened?
Yeah, you just make it work, because by the time that 3 years roll around, you've experienced so many benefits. You're aware of what you would be giving up if you went back. So for me, I made up my mind, because I knew what the other side was. I had already been there. So it's not even a decision anymore. It's like, I know where I've been and I know where I'm at right now, and this is what it takes to stay here. And this is, yeah, basically you just, it's like I said, it's like you're a food monk, I've entered the order of the raw foodism.
Sure.
And it's my life. And I'm never gonna say this is forever either, because that feels way scary. I'm just gonna say, this is what I'm doing right now. This is what's working for me right now. This is what's bringing me joy. This is what my life is all about. And it's one day at a time.
Yeah.
Even though it's almost 4 years now, it's still one day at a time.
And let me ask you about San Diego, the differences between Florida, so these are, a lot of people would listen to this and say, well, those sound like both ideal places if you want to do a raw food diet, and I'm sure they both have raw food restaurants and stuff, and probably good farmers markets. What for you are some of the benefits, or how do they compare, Florida to San Diego, for you as a raw vegan?
Well, I mean, when we started traveling around the US, I pretty much knew California it was very much on my radar. My husband was like, it's too expensive, but like, let's just go check it out. And we came here, we loved it right away. The weather is amazing. No more air conditioning, which I was so sick of in Florida, is with the air conditioning, because it's so humid there. The produce in Florida is great, but guess what? A lot of it comes from California anyway. California is the #1 producer in all of the United States, and it mostly comes from California. So while I was able to get great tropical fruit, like right now, mango season is in Florida, and oh my God, the mango season was amazing. Believe it or not, it's very expensive, fruits and vegetables in Florida. in California, one of the biggest perks was the affordability of the produce and the greens in particular, and the fruit. Like right now, the other day I got jackfruit. It was 77 cents a pound. And I used to pay $3 a pound in Florida. I was able to buy melons are exquisite here. Seeded organic melons. They were $5 the other day. In Florida, I used to for one like that, I used to pay $6, $7, $8. The produce here is great quality, and I'm looking forward to fig season, persimmon season. It's just different because over there we have the tropical. Over here we have more Mediterranean fruits and vegetables. So yeah, it's amazing here. I love it. Florida was more expensive, definitely.
Oh wow! And
Mm-hmm.
what are your sort of favorite? What do you think are the best things that you're finding in the farmers markets and the different places you go for fruit in San Diego?
The best things, well, everything is really super fresh because everything is from here. So the other day I went and I was able to find like celery. It was $1 per bunch of celery. I thought that was a great price. I used to pay $3.50 for celery, and I love celery juice. So cucumbers, organic cucumbers each for great cucumbers. Like I said, the jackfruit. So I mean, very, very, sorry.
Is there good tomatoes out there?
Great tomatoes, great greens. The mangoes, like I said the other day, organic mangoes, beautiful, not like the ones you just showed me, but yeah, amazing. I mean, it's great. Strawberries, right now is strawberry season. We just a lot of strawberries right now. I was able to buy 4 pints of strawberries for $3. I mean, come on. 4 huge things of strawberries. It was like, and blueberries, they were $1 each for a pack. I mean, I used to pay $3, $4, $5 for that in Florida. Wow. So yeah, it's good.
Excellent. So where can people learn more about you, and what are some of the things you have on offer? I think you've got some books and things that people can get from you.
So I have a website, evalovesraw.com. I have one free ebook that's a 3-day smoothie cleanse. And then I have an ebook that's a high raw reset, which is pretty much what all my clients request. They want like a meal plan that's high raw, not 100% raw. It's mostly raw though. I would say it's 80, 85, 90% raw. So I have that also on my website. The smoothie cleanse is a freebie. The other one I think is like $14 or something like that. And yeah, I have been coaching for quite a long time now. I used to coach people on how to quit smoking. That was I had a clinic way back in the day in Fort Lauderdale to help people quit smoking. And I did that for a number of years. And then I slowly transitioned into wellness because it goes really well together. Coaching, I think my experiences, helping people quit smoking helped me a lot because you're now quitting cooked foods. So it's kind of like similar in many ways. So yeah.
So that is such a tough thing for a person to give up a habit like that, which is, an addiction. And do you see like a similar process every time? Like, is there a similar thing to giving up the addiction to cigarettes as it is to giving up the addiction to cooked food? Are there similarities there in the thought process that people go through, the emotions they go through, the stress, the anxieties, and eventually when they actually manage to do it? Is it quite similar from what you've seen?
Yeah, it is. You said it very well. The emotions come up, the stress people feel sometimes. The only difference I see is that when I coach people now on to switch into a raw food lifestyle, I tell them this is all about the joy. And even though you're now transitioning and you're kind of like walking upstream a little bit, swimming upstream, and you're having a hard time, you'll see how very, very quickly how this is all about the joy. smoking, it's very, very scary for people. People feel like someone's died, like their best friend has died. That people feel like it's a very emotionally depleting, event. So in that respect, it's a little bit like cooked food, because yeah, you're very emotionally attached to food. However, the difference is right away you see amazing benefits from eating raw, where when you quit smoking, you don't feel amazing right away. It takes you quite a long time to get over the emotional upset that it has caused. So when I coach people, yeah, there are some similarities. It's upsetting emotionally and all of that, but with the raw food right away, you see the benefits pretty much right off the bat.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me today, Eva, and I encourage everyone to go and follow Eva on Instagram, Eva Loves Raw, and her website as well, Eva Loves Raw, search for that. And Eva, what would be your last kind of message or closing statement for people, just to give some of the listeners a little bit of inspiration? What would you leave us with today?
I would say if you're being called onto a raw vegan lifestyle, if something bigger than yourself seems to be propelling you towards it, don't ignore it.
Mm.
Don't overthink it either. Don't, people get caught in the details, but, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to, it's like, just let go of all the worries and all this. Just do one foot in front of the other. Choose raw for right now, this meal that you have in front of you. Hey, have a smoothie instead of that, porridge you were going to have, or those eggs, or that whatever, have a smoothie. Don't think about too much, because then you just get overwhelmed. Just take it very, very slowly. And if you're being called, don't ignore the call. Just something is pushing you towards this. There's a reason behind it. Time to see what's behind the curtain. You'll be
Yeah.
amazed.
Well, thanks so much for giving us some time speaking to us today. And I'd like to say to everyone out there that I've seen with my own eyes how Eva balances being a mother and a wife and a raw foodist and a coach, and cooking different food for them but eating other food for herself. I've seen her do that, and she manages to do that with great ease. So if you're looking for someone to support you and help you out there, and she sounds like the person for you, then don't hesitate to get in touch and learn from her, and she'll really help you on this path. Thank you for joining me today, Eva. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Feel free to share this with other people. If you think this could help someone, then definitely share it with them. And if you want to learn more about the raw vegan lifestyle, Eva talked about the Woodstock Fruit Festival, which is an event that we would both highly recommend. Go and check that out. Or also the UK Fruit Fest, which you can find out more about at fruitfest.co.uk. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Love Fruit Podcast.